Good evening, Internet! Tonight we have an announcement. I have installed some mods into my career mode. Specifically, I've installed about 5 of them. Let's take a look real quick. The first one of note is on this toolbar over here. It's called the Science Library. And the Science Library, there are 2 modes to it. The first mode is an on-screen window right here that we can open up. This basically is a giant checklist of any science missions that we can still conduct, like anything around the sun, anything around Kerbin, anything around Eve, the place that we are about to visit, but still need a little bit of time to prepare for. So the other mode that the library has, the science library, is if you go into a live mission and open up another screen that says Library Live, again accessible on the toolbar. It allows you to see an updating map of any science that you've already done, as well as any science that you can do. As your spacecraft travels, you can see the numbers on the bar slowly switch around. In this case, we chose a mission that can't really do any more science because all of its devices don't really work here. But that's basically what the science library is. Next up is the Kerbal alarm clock. That is another mod that I've installed, and it's actually rather quite useful. Especially if you're running multiple mods at once, or multiple missions at once, and you might have a tendency to lose track of some of them. And importantly to note, some missions have key points in time where you have to burn retrograde on a periapse to obtain orbit, or you have to deorbit, or something like that. So time is important in this game. And the alarm clock lets us set up points in time where we can have the game alert us whenever an important keystone is happening for a particular mission. Let's say if we wanted to burn on a periapse to do a retrograde to put ourselves in orbit. Well, we can do that. We can set up a maneuver node whenever we have to do an important burn to put us somewhere else. We just go into this menu here, click the node, and we can tell it that this is an important thing. We can have the game pause for us entirely. We can pull us out of a time warp because we don't want to miss it due to time warping. So it's a rather useful thing to have, but as more missions keep going out simultaneously, the more use I'll have for this alarm clock. The next one that I have installed is called Engineer. Engineer Redux, specifically. I'll admit this one is a little bit beyond what I'm capable of as far as the extreme science and mathematics go, but it gives us information on our craft as we're building it, and it gives us information while we're out, like as far as orbital statistics go, how much delta V is needed to get to where you need to go. Delta V, by the way, don't expect me to use that phrase too often because I'm not too familiar with it, but as I understand it, it's how much burning you need to do to change your velocity or speed to put yourself where you need to go. I am no expert on this. Please look it up yourself if you're interested, because I barely know what I'm doing in this game. Basically, handy frame of reference for when we're building things as far as what it can do and what it's capable of doing, what's happening to it right now. Let's see. Next up is ISA Mapsat. Mapsat is a new mod. It is a satellite piece that you put in orbit around any given celestial body, and its purpose is to map out the area that you put it in. And usually you want an orbit that's fairly like not horizontal, something around the poles of the planet. The idea is that as the planet or celestial body or what have you slowly rotates underneath your orbiting spacecraft, you gradually chart it out and eventually you have a full map of the planet. It's useful in showing you interesting landmarks, interesting in showing it's good in showing you biomes, and it helps you find basically anything that you might be interested in seeing that might not be obvious to you while you're sitting in orbit or trying to do a landing, so handy to have. It also gives us a Kerbalopedia, or what have you, that gives you information on the various places that we can visit. Let's say, Eve or Kerbin. I don't think we'll be consulting this too much, but it's a handy resource to have in-game, especially if you're not, if you're just sort of playing it by ear and not doing research in the background. The final mod that I've installed is called the Universe Replacer, which is a fancier way of saying it's a mod, say a texture pack. This one is purely for aesthetics. There's no real practical reason for having this other than you want to make the world look different. And I have installed a specific mod pack, or rather texture pack on this called Celestial Bodies, which is supposed to give us a higher resolution version of the planets and what have you. I don't think everyone can run this. I have a pretty decent graphics card on my computer, so I'm going to try to amp it up to make it look prettier for the viewers at home. And that's basically it. Again, those 5 mods are Science Library, the Alarm Clock, Engineer, Redux, the ISA Mapsat, and Universe Replacer. I might be installing some more mods in the future, but that remains to be seen. Anyway, there's a couple more things to do in this video. I'm going to gather some more science around Minmus, but this time I am just going to do a montage of it, because you've already seen me do a whole bunch of landings at Minmus, and you might be tired of that, because they're basically the same missions I've already sent there before. But I'd like to gather a bit more science before doing your next mission. And finally, after that, we'll show you some new science that we get in our technology tree, and the launching of an ISA map satellite. So, here we go. So, needless to say, we have a lot more technology now. Let's take a look and see what we can do at this point, now that we have well over 1,000. Right, here we go. Okay, so I've got a few priorities that I want to tackle first. In particular, if we're going to start launching missions to Eve, and I mean serious missions, we're going to need to beef up our rockets. So let's see, we're going to get heavy rocketry for 90. And I'm going to take it a step further and go for heavier rocketry too. So now we're going to have a lot more boosting power underneath our missions. There we go. Let's see what else we can do. Also, for building more advanced kinds of ships, we're going to need some pretty advanced stocking systems, which I haven't even really gotten into yet, but I'll show you guys in the next few videos. Needless to say, I think we're going to need this to build some seriously big ships. So let's go with that. Let's see here. We're also going to want some more electricity to carry with us as well, and that includes better solar panels and higher rechargeable battery banks. So let's go for that. We also want to enable a new kind of mission that we can send to, especially for visiting a new place altogether. So I'm going to enable field science, which are rovers, so we can unlock some wheels and some rover command modules too. Or rather, command pods, or unmanned systems. We're not going on the rovers, they're autonomous. So, there we go. We still have 383 science to burn though, so let's see if we can put that anywhere else. Let's see. Where is that? Specialized control. Here we go. We get some new landing pieces, we have a new command pod that holds more than one person, finally. A few more RCS ports, so we'll grab that. 223 science, not too high, I must confess, but I'm pretty sure we can get a couple more useful things out of this. New landing hardware would be kind of cool. What's this? Nuclear propulsion. A bit beyond our grasp, unfortunately. As fun as that sounds. No, I may as well clear the lower tier of our technology tree. So landing sounds pretty important. And, advanced landing. Oh, we can't grab that. Well, that's okay. I guess we can grab aerodynamics. I'm not really building space planes, I have to admit, but I suppose it might be useful to have for the future. So there we go! A lot more science coming out of a couple of trips to Minbus. Quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if we get all the science that we need by going to Eve. I'm not sure how I feel about that, grabbing all the science now and then not really being able to spend it when I'm going on bigger missions. Maybe that's what mods are for. You recall earlier how I launched a map satellite to Minbus to do some mapping? Well, as it turns out, I think I made a mistake. If I'm not mistaken, they're actually supposed to be a little bit higher off the ground. So what I'm going to do real quick is launch this satellite. This time this one's going to be around Kerbin because, frankly, it's the easiest to orbit around. I've been told around Kerbin that you want to get between 300 to 400 kilometers. So I'm going to test that real quick, and if that is the case, then it turns out that we need to orbit higher than just barely off the ground. So let's give that a try, and then we'll see how the mapping goes. Let's keep our eye on our periapsis, because once that gets high, about as high as 300, then we should be comfortable. Then when I get to that periapsis, I will do one final burn and put ourselves at an even orbit. And 305. Okay. Where did our apoid... Yep, that's way too high. Okay, we can compensate for that. Let's see. 400, 305... Usually the good way to tell when you got an even orbit is when they're right in between the middle of one another. 306... 304, 306... right about there should be fine, I think. So we've only got to do one more burn, and it'll only be for 5 seconds. Then we should have done everything we need to do. Ooh, these things take so long to turn. I do have some RCS thrusters on this, so if I want to, I can use that to speed up the process of the turn. It does waste RCS fuel, but if we're going to have an orbit that we're comfortable with, then it really doesn't matter. And we should be good. Well, good enough. Okay, so I feel comfortable with this orbit to do a Mapsat adventure here. So, a couple more things I want to do before we start that. You may notice that we're using a different way to connect the satellite itself to our thruster. That's this brand new docking port that we got actually in the last adventure from Minbus. It works sort of like the decouplers, except in this case I only have one docking port. If I had a docking port on the thruster and one on a satellite, the two could reconnect after I disconnected them, but because I only have a docking port on one, if I disconnect it, it'll stay that way. So, if I click the decouple node button... Oh, wow, that destroyed one of our darn solar panels. That's bad. Did that disrupt our orbit? No. That was a little bit of a design flaw right there, but it didn't disrupt the orbit. That's really unfortunate. Okay, so viewers, note, that is a risk that you can run into. Right, well, this is still a functioning spacecraft nonetheless. So if I hit scan, and yep, there we go, now it's starting to scan, and it should give us a higher resolution image considering where we are. KSC, POS will give us our current position, we can project our polar view, or the biomes, which it's now starting to draw on this screen. If we let it sit here, it will start to draw the biome on this map. anomalies. If we click the anomalies button, then it'll also search for mysterious things on the surface of the planet. And of course, we can check our Kerbalopedia too, although we more or less know what we need to know about Kerbal, or Kerbin. And I apologize, actually. I noticed that I keep, like, switching around Kerbal, Kerbal, Kerbin. All these words get confused together. The Earth. I'm going to start calling it the Earth, just to make it a little bit easier on everyone's brains. Now, as I said before, if we leave the system as it is, it will continue to map the surface of the planet, but the problem is that we have to stay with the satellite for it to do the mapping. If we leave it, then it will unfortunately cease mapping, but it will continue to orbit. For the sake of your own sanity, I will leave this as is and not record myself getting the entire map. I'll probably do that off screen and then show you the results at a much later time. Let's see, projection. Yeah, so we'll leave it be and get back to it a little bit later. Shame about the solar panels, though. I didn't realize that it would be that catastrophic. Note to self, don't put solar panels anywhere near decouplers or nodes like that. That's pretty dangerous. Or maybe it's a good idea just to not have them extended until afterwards. So there's our Mapsat, and there's our Sputnik still going on. Now then, the main mission that I want to accomplish is still currently at Eve. We've landed one thing there so far, but I want to send a proper mission there. Fortunately, we actually have the capabilities to do that now that we have all of the recent technology tree pieces. But there is one final mission I want to send out before officially getting there. The outer solar system is very far away. It's much further away from Eve. And I figure, if we want to explore it, we might send some things over there and then do our mission to Eve, because that way we can conduct our Eve journey while the other mission makes its way to the outer planets. So, I said I was going to do one mission. I'm going to do it. I'm going to send it to the big planet, the planet I was talking about a lot 2 episodes ago or so. I want to go to Jewel. So I'm going to send a mission there, one that is capable of conducting a whole bunch of science that might help us learn a little bit more about it, about the dangers, risks, rewards, and so on.